Hi again, intermediate algebra students. It's time for the second lesson in this chapter 6, Forms of Linear Equations. And this is pretty much the meat and potatoes of this whole chapter as we learn about these various forms. And I think most of these are ones that you've probably heard of before. First of all, three main ones as you can see: point slope, standard, and slope intercept. Point slope looks like this: y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Looks pretty confusing, but the idea here is that you'll be given two coordinates, and their coordinates are x1 and y1. That's the given point, and then you may remember that m stands for the slope. So this is a really good form to start with when we work with these other equations. Second one is called standard form. This is the one that I say is all prettied up. So it's ax plus by equals c, and this a and b and c have to be these nice numbers called integers. That means no fractions, no decimals, nice whole numbers. They could be positive or negative, except this a value here we always like to be positive. So that's standard form. And the last one, which we won't talk about much today but will probably be the most used one, which many of you will remember: slope intercept, y equals mx plus b. And in this case, m is the slope as usual, and b is the y-intercept. We'll really use this one a lot to do our graphing in this chapter later on. Alright, let's look at now of how this might work. So it says we want to try to find the point slope equation of the line through 3, -5 with slope of 4/3. Now remember, this point that we give you here, that's x1, y1. So if you look back to your notes on this point slope, that's what that is. And remember, point slope is this: y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And then we just have to plop in stuff. And typically here now we will have that y and that x. That will stay the way it is. You won't be substituting anything in place of that. But I will be putting things in for y1 and m and x1. So let's just go ahead and finish this out. So y stays the same, but my y1 is -5 minus a -5. I'll usually write that as +5. M then is my slope, in this case is 4/3, and then my x value stays the same, and my x1 is 3. And that's all there is to it. Now that looks kind of complicated perhaps, but it's really just a matter of filling in the blanks, so to speak, or putting in the values in place of x1, y1, and m. Alright, now we're going to go on and do another problem that's very similar to this. I'm just going to take a couple notes off to the side here. And my next exact same situation, same point, same slope, but now we want to try to do this standard form. This gets just a little trickier because we have to get it all prettied up. So our last slide we had this: y plus 5 equals 4/3 x minus 3. We want to get this in standard form, which means no fractions or anything like that. So what I'm going to do first of all here is I'm going to multiply everything by some value that will, I say, knock out that denominator. And so I'm going to use 3, because what 3 will do is cancel this thing out when I multiply by it. So let's just see how this works. So 3 times y would be 3y, and 3 times 5 is 15. And then if I leave it like this, when I multiply 3 by 4/3, the 3's will cancel out. I'll just get a 4 here. Then I still have my parentheses x minus 3. Alright, I'll go one more step here. So 3y plus 15 equals 4x minus 12, like that. And now I'm pretty well set, except I just have to rearrange everything. I think first of all I'll start by subtracting this 4x on each side. And I can't put together x's and y's, so I get -4x plus 3y plus 15 equals -12. And then I just have to subtract 15 from each side, and I get -4x plus 3y equals negative 27. Okay, as we were saying here, that looks like it's in standard form. The only thing I don't really like here is this negative sign in front. So I'm just going to change the sign of everything, and I'll write this in a different color so you can see here. My final answer here then will be 4x minus 3y equals 27. A problem like this is fairly difficult just because there's a lot of gunky algebra involved to try to simplify it. But it's something I know you guys like. Last type of equation, point slope once again, but this time we have, we don't know what the slope is. We're given 2 points. So always your first good step here then is let's see if we can figure out that slope. And remember, slope is change in y over change in x. So I'd take a look at this and I'd say, well, my y values are 2 and 3, or 3 minus 2. So I know there's a difference of 1 there, I think, right? And my x values are negative 5 and positive 3, so that's a difference of 8. So my slope is 1/8. Now, is that positive 1/8 or negative 1/8? I might just make a little sketch over here and just kind of sketch out those points. Negative 5, 3 would be about here, and 3, 2 would be here. So it's kind of a flat slope, but it is going to be sloping downward, so my answer is negative 1/8. So when I write my point slope, and it looks like this, again, I just have to fill in the blanks here. And the nice thing about this is that I actually have 2 points that I can use, and it doesn't really matter which one I use. So I'm going to just use the 3, 2 one, so it's going to be y minus 2 equals negative 1/8 times x minus 3. You do have to use the same coordinates in each once you pick one of those points. So there's my point slope, and then as you might guess, my next slide is going to be once again some practice in trying to convert this to standard. So kind of not the most pleasant, but let's see if we can grunt it out. So here was my point slope. One thing to remember is you can never go right to the standard form. You always have to start with point slope or slope intercept first. Again, just like we showed before, what I don't like here in standard form is this fraction. So I want to multiply by something that would get rid of that fraction, and so I'm going to multiply everything by 8. And so when I do that, I'm going to get 8y minus 16. This is the old distributive property. And again, 8 times 1/8, the 8s will cancel out or reduce out, and I'll get just a negative 1, and then x minus 3 like that. So 8y minus 16 equals negative x plus 3. Remember, when you take negative 1 times negative 3 is that. Now I just need to get my x's and y's on the same side, so I'm going to add x to each side. So I have x plus 8y minus 16 equals 3. I'm going to add 16 to each side. And so my final answer ends up to be x plus 8y equals 19. That's my standard form equation. So kind of tough. We'll keep practicing on this in class though. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys in class.